So I'm laughing, guys, because Chris and I were just joking around before the show started. So hopefully, get into some funny stuff here. Very excited to have a guy I genuinely love having on, Jim West, coming on. But before we do, Fort Scott Munitions. You've heard us talk about Fort Scott week after week because we love what they're doing, and they're a great sponsor of the show. They're a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly also became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammo being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available through privately owned businesses in all 50 states. That's if your state has not issued some crazy executive order.
Yeah, goodness.
But you can get them directly online through fortscottmunitions.com and use exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of this podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. And even though, a lot of stuff is shut down, you do have some stuff coming up that you will be using Fort Scott on, right?
Well, yeah, we have arranged it. It's like you said, it's state dependent. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's governor dependent. You damn. Okay, I'm not gonna say it anyway. But we got a course coming up May 2nd and 3rd. It's home defense course. It's a fun course to do. Where we teach the basics of room entries and but also we don't get so much in the tactical because that takes years to develop to be an effective close quarter combat tactician, and even after years it's hard to even just still become an expert in it because things change in urban environments. But it gives us the chance to show you and give people some confidence of how, if you are ever in a situation where you have to clear your room or you have to you have an intruder in your house, how to deal with it. And of course, we use Fort Scott Munitions. Day one is a lot of shooting with pistol and rifle. So it's coming up in Oklahoma at Iron Gal Firearms with Eddie Ranji's place. And
Nice.
Tremendous course. Yeah, tremendous course out there. And yeah, of course, I'll be having Fort Scott Munitions. I'll have my old Tonto toolbox out there because that's what I use for home defense, shooting 300 blackout ammunition, 115 grain, and we'll post a lot of videos of it, and you can see how I use, and Ben Morgan out there from Morgan Timing Systems, he's one of my instructors, how we use Fort Scott Munitions and how reliable it is, and it's just a tremendous ammunition company. So yeah, we'll post some stuff, and I'm sure Ian always reposts stuff on the podcast page, so you're going to see it on the Battleline Tactical page, my page, and of course the Battleline Podcast page, and you'll see Fort Scott Munitions right up to the forefront.
Hell yeah. You almost said tremendous as many times as Trump says tremendous.
Did I say tremendous? Does he say tremendous? I didn't know he said tremendous.
I feel like he always uses those same words like tremendous governor. Just...
I'll have to watch. No, I'm not watching. Shut up. You're not baiting me in. I'm not watching the news or anything. C-SPAN. Nope. Not watching the president talk. I am so happy finally being back to what I was before when I was deploying all the time, where I didn't give two shits about the news, dude. I never watched it. Life is so much better, and you give me the information I need anyway. We're on the show. You pick and choose what really I need to know about.
And it's never really the mainstream news. The stuff that's on TV, the only time I see that is when I go over to my parents' house. But anyway, we'll get into the show here. Fort Scott Munitions, once again, fortscottmunitions.com, exclusive promo code Battleline. Let's hit it.
On the microphones, pure and uncensored American straight talk. Never quit. You're locked and loaded with Chris Peranto and Ian Scotto. This is the Battleline Podcast.
Which is on, motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
Switch is on. Yeah. And just getting into everything here. Very excited to have Jim West. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to get into. Actually, I think the first thing we could mention that I thought would be a funny email from a listener sent to Battleline Podcast at email.com. You know what's funny? I thought this guy was a Border Patrol agent because I saw his name was Chris Caballero or Caballero. That'll be my Spanish there.
Nice.
But because I'm pretty sure there's actually a Border Patrol agent I remember speaking to who does a podcast, and that's his name. Except he spells Chris the way you spell Chris, Kris. This guy, which I rarely see.
Yeah, that's I'm not familiar. If I am, sorry, Chris. If we've talked before and I've somehow forgot, I'm getting old, man. So
well, no, that's my thing. The guy that I know of, Chris Caballero or Caballero, is Chris. And so I wasn't sure. I asked this guy. I was like, "Are you a Border Patrol agent by any chance?" And he was like, "No, just a regular Joe, fan of the show." So, but I thought maybe it was him. But anyway, he sent this to us, battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. And this is a fun question as opposed to the serious stuff a lot of people ask. Question for you both. Would you both be game characters for Call of Duty Modern Warfare?
Oh, hell yeah. I think the last Modern Warfare 2, my son came and told me, he goes, "Hey, Dad, you know they're doing an embassy attack in Benghazi 13 hours on the new Call of Duty. There's actually a situation when you do the when you do the game, the role play stuff that you have to defend an embassy. Shocker, but I would definitely be one. I think actually I do have a character on Minecraft. If you look at Minecraft, somebody built a Tonto character, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Again, my son, who's a game player, he found it. He goes, "Hey, Dad, look, you're on Minecraft." So I honestly, to me, that is the biggest form of flattery, right? Anything else, but if you have a character, if there is an actual Tonto fighting in shorts and a Mickey Mouse shirt on Call of Duty. Oh, that to me, you've made it. I've made it. I don't need anything else. I've made it. So hell yeah, I would love that. Hey, who makes Call of? Is that EA? Not EA Sports does all like the Madden stuff. Yeah, I don't know who it is, but whoever it is, throw it on there. Especially since you're using Benghazi as one of your roles in the most recent Call of Duty where you have to defend an embassy. Definitely throw Tano and Oz and Tig and Boone and Jack and Rowan. Throw them all on there, man. You know, but. Of course I would. That's the coolest thing in the world right there.
I'm not that big of a gamer, but at least from the Wikipedia, what I'm seeing is Infinity Ward, I guess, is the developer I've never heard of, and Activision.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them. Activision, I am. Activision has been around since the beginning, since we had the Ataris. Activision, there was a game where you used to have to swing back and forth over ponds and alligators, and it was Activision's been around forever. I didn't know Activision was still around. See that? I learn something every day, man. There you go.
I'm going by Wikipedia. I mean, the question said both of us, but of course, if they have any interest in having me, why not? But then I think I'd be called like a stolen valor guy. They'd be like, "This guy didn't even serve in the military," and I'd be like, "No, they just asked me to be in the game for some reason." I would do it.
That would be so cool. We'd have to change your name though, dude. It couldn't just be Ian. We'd have to get a call sign for you, something. So yeah, man.
The only thing I have to add to this, I guess, is and I don't know if you have any insight on this. I remember speaking with guys in the community about when SOCOM Navy SEALs came out, and I think there was some type of controversy over guys who were active duty spending time to be the guys in that game. And
yeah.
I don't know enough about it, so I'm totally speaking off the top of my head on this. But I guess my feeling on it would be, I think anybody in that case, even if they probably weren't technically supposed to be doing it, you get asked to be in a video game like SOCOM Navy SEALs, you're probably gonna be like, hell yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of people would turn that up.
Right, and you're not really. There's nothing. You're not violating national security and things. It's not like you're giving them. Well, here's this mission that we did. And it was top secret, but let's put it in Call of Duty. Let's put it in Modern Warfare. That's one of your. I mean, if that's what they're doing, yes, that's illegal. You can't do that shit.
Yeah, I think it may have been
name or likeness. Yeah,
I think it may have been them getting paid for it, but I think anybody probably would have done that. And actually, when I think of SOCOM Navy SEALs and all that stuff, sometimes when people think of the word propaganda, it has like a negative connotation. I think those games are propaganda in the positive sense.
Well,
That's how younger kids are learning about special operations. You know,
yeah,
they're not learning about it the same ways as guys years ago. They're watching movies like you know, the movie about Marcus Luttrell and playing games like SOCOM Navy SEALs.
yeah, no, there's to me there's nothing wrong about it. If there was issue with the Department of Defense getting mad at the guys for taking money, kiss my ass, Department of Defense. Just because you probably didn't get cut in it, now you're bitching because these guys are making money. Believe me, DoD, you make tons of money off lesser things than that with more unethical, unethical issues out there. So no, I think that's probably what it was more than anything. Is you got flag officers out there saying, "Oh man, we didn't get our cut. Look at the enlisted guys are making money. Nope, can't do that. Yeah, eat shit. The guys, if they're in the movie, and if your likeness, if your life rights are in, like I said, likeness, goes down to life rights, where if you're in a movie, you have to sign a contract for your life rights. Which is what we did for 13 hours, so the movie can use you and you can't sue them. If you're getting your likeness used in a video game and anything that's going to make money, movies, books, so forth, you should be getting paid for it. That's bullshit if you're not. And this is a note to everybody getting out of the service or anybody that actually has been approached, say, hey, I'm going to put you in a movie. No, make sure you get paid for it, dude. Make sure, I'm going to put you in a book. Make sure you get paid for it. Even the guys in the book I put, the Patriots Creed. No, you know, I'm not going to get into the finance, but it was a call, and a lot of them said, no, I don't want your money. I don't want to take it. No, guys, I've been in that boat before. You have a story. You're giving a little bit of work into this. You're going to get compensated for it. And that's how it should be. So yeah, DOD, if they did, I didn't know that, Ian. If I thought they, I didn't know.
I don't know a whole lot either, because it's the type of thing I remember hearing about years ago. So I will be the first to, as a disclaimer, say my story could be entirely wrong on this. So I just remember hearing a little bit of controversy about it, but the thing that I'm just thinking of that I do stand behind is I think there's probably a ton of kids who played that game when it came out and said, this is awesome. And they probably read books from there, learned about the SEALs, and possibly became SEALs. And
that's nothing wrong with that. They use that so there you go right there, DOD. That video game right there has helped get your numbers up for recruiting. So I guess I just answered my own question right there.
Oh, it probably has. I bet you. I mean, I don't know if the DoD was involved or wasn't involved. I would think they would have been, because it helps. But I think it was over active duty guys. Like I said, this was like a controversy years ago. But I just, I think video games are doing good things in terms of just getting awareness out there. In this day and age with social media, you can't be so top secret that 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds don't hear about what you're doing.
Yeah, back in the day, nobody knew who Delta was. Now it's a household name. And you make a TV show called The Unit. They're gonna figure it out eventually. So I agree, bro. There's nothing wrong with that. And video games, I played video games growing up too. I still play Call of Duty when I was overseas. It's one of the things we did to pass the time. It's a blast, and it does. I think it has positive ramifications. The naysayers out there will say, oh no, it condones violence and this and that. No. If you've got a good upbringing, believe me, I think the media and the mainstream media probably condones violence more than anything, not a video game. So I'm in agreement with you. And if guys are getting their likenesses on a video game, whether it's SOCOM Navy SEALs, whether it's Call of Duty or so forth, nothing wrong with that. But that being said, if a video game manufacturer, somebody's doing that, damn near, you bet to have some ethics and pay the guys that you're using their likenesses for, because you're making a shitload of money off of them, and they deserve that. So that's my soapbox comment on that, definitely.
Yeah. Did when you played video games like Call of Duty, were you on the headset like talking with the kids that are playing against you?
No, what we had is normally we had enough guys, so we'd have 4. Oh, that being said, we actually we put our headsets on, and we would play in our different buildings. So let's give you an example. Like let's say we were in Kabul, Afghanistan. Everybody had a set within their own team rooms, and so we would each play each other. So we were all in the same base, but we're all in different team rooms talking to each other. So what you can do is you don't have to go and do an internationally game where you're playing with everybody from all over the country. If you have enough players, you can play amongst yourselves. But yeah, we were all on different sets in different rooms playing against each other, talking trash on the headsets. But I have to watch for my son, because he does that. So we got to make sure who he's talking to, because it can get a little dangerous that way too.
Oh yeah,
you have predators on there.
oh yeah. What I
That's
was
the
just
one
thinking of. Yeah, I was just thinking of you playing with the headset and some 16-year-old being like, "You pussy, have you ever even fired a gun before?"
No, not that. But I did have my son beat me. I played against him one time, and he did beat me. And he goes, "Dad, how am I better than you? I thought you were a ranger." He started talking shit, and he was 13 at the time. So no, I haven't got that yet, though. I didn't do that. I didn't get the Thor where he's playing against the guy. And what was the last movie that came out? Endgame, where he's playing against the guy, and I'm Thor. I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna blow you up if you ever get back on this game again. Because they're talking never. But I'm sure if I did, play like that, somebody would probably say something. Some 15, 16-year-old probably say. Actually, I think it'd probably even be lower. I think it'd probably be a 10 or 11-year-old talking trash. And what could you? I would say. I think it'd be funny. I think it would laugh. Maybe, depending how belligerent these 10, 11-year-olds get nowadays, brother. So I wish I had a story like that, but I don't.
That brings me to another topic before we bring Jim on. That I didn't even write down, but now I'm thinking about it. If you could talk about it, this week you had to. Didn't you have to renew? What was it, your concealed carry?
Yeah. I let it expire, and if you let it expire, you have to go back, and you actually have to take the whole 8-hour class again. And yeah, it's just is what it is. Nebraska wants my money just like anybody else's, and I got to follow the rules just like everybody else, and that's fine. So it. But the gentleman that teaches it, Sean Steiner, he's got Steiner Academy out here. Great guy. And if you're in Nebraska, guys, he runs classes all the time. If you get a chance, look up Steiner Academy and take one of his classes. He's a very, very good individual. I knew the instructor, so it was fun. And he could kind of poke a little fun at me. And we'll do a picture. He goes, "Man, I've got to get a picture that you were in my class that I was teaching you concealed carry." So it made it that it was fun. But yeah, like, really, I got to go do this. But yeah, that's the law. I mean, I'm nothing special. And so we went in 8 hours of 4, and it was broken up in 2 days. Thank God for that, or I'd have fell asleep. So 4 hours, you learn Nebraska law again, and then the second day you learn the fundamentals of marksmanship. And I'll tell everybody out there, it's always good to learn fundamentals again and again and again, because that's where your skill sets are always based off of. So you just got to have the mindset in there. You go in there, brother, and like, all right, well, I can be a student here, and I can always get something out of it. And, I did. I actually got something out of it because they brought the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. His name's Brad, came in. He's actually taken a course from me before as well when I did one at Enter 10. But he came in to because he's a USCCA representative, and I didn't realize how great they were. And I'm not, they're not a paid sponsor thing, guys. I'm not pushing it out there for them of that, but just how protective they can be if you ever are in an incident. And guys, I'm telling you out there, even with your concealed carry license, if you're ever in an incident, you're going to get strung up. So have somebody on your side. And I didn't realize that how much even though I have a lawyer on retainer, I have a lawyer, but how much they will take care of you if you are in an incident. And even if it's a justified, which God forbid you have to use your gun, it better be justified, that how much the law really isn't on your side. And even if you do win a case, you're going to come after you civilly. Talk to OJ about that. Where you won his criminal case but lost his ass civilly, they're going to do that as well. So I at least what I'm saying is at least I still got something out of it. I found a way to get something out of it, and it was fun. It was. And Sean was good. Sean's a great guy. So, and I got to pew a little bit. I got to shoot a little bit, and then I stayed at the range and shot for another hour. So, but yeah, brother, I'm not saying it was humbling, because it's not. It's never humbling. That means that I'm talking bad. No, it just is. It is. It's like getting up and going, really? I got to go do this. But go suck it up, embrace the suck. It was over, and here we are. And now I've got to go make an appointment to actually go get my official license, because you still have to go through the state patrol to turn all the paperwork in. But I got all the paperwork done now, so that's good.
Yeah, I would think at a time like this, though, I guess just maybe from my perspective, it would be a little bit nice to have some interaction with people you don't know, and like-minded people, rather than it being a pain in the ass like most times. Because...
Yeah. Well, that's where we're going in. Where the next seg, where we're talking about the COVID. Hey guys, guess what? I was in a room, a 20 by 10 room with 10 people, and guess what? I didn't catch the COVID, and I was less than 6 feet away from him. Mayor Stothard,
Wow.
If you're listening to this, kiss my ass. I mean, that's just a class. That's where you're up now. We actually, it was the 10 people rule, so we didn't go beyond that. But what I'm poking fun at, guys, is that the chances of you catching something, if you and
if you're in Nebraska,
I still think the numbers are still overblown.
Yeah,
I mean,
I could just say, I mean, the only thing I'm going to interrupt with, because
no, go ahead.
I don't want to downplay the severity in New York, because I could tell you, man, every single day, my friends' parents are dying, my friends' grandparents are dying. It's bad here. I understand the perspective from Nebraska, though.
Well, and that's the thing is that, well, here's on the flip side. I have again, I don't know anybody personally. No, nobody personally.
I genuinely know dozens.
Well, and but I have the one I do know I do know someone here personally, a doctor. Yes, and a friend of his died. And I talked to him. I said, well, what happened? He says, well, what happened is we were out and they were having, dinner and something. And then the next day they went home, and he's this heavier set guy. He's a big guy. They found him dead the next day of a heart attack, but then they did the test and he looked like he had a thing of COVID. So they classified it as a COVID death. This is where I'm having issues, brother. And this is where we'll never be able to find out the truth for at least 2 years till the totals come back, is that I still believe that there is a lot of misrepresentation, that there is the deaths that COVID wasn't the primary cause, but that's why we're going to do it. We're going to say it is because of either money or because, again, I just think this country loves drama more so. When you're out of this country a lot and you watch it from afar, you see places that really do have serious problems every day, where it's Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, places like that. And I really think the American people and not the American people, the media and this country, I don't know if they feel like we're missing out because we don't have as many problems as all these other countries do. We don't. There's no woman getting stoned in a soccer stadium. And I don't mean stoned by smoking weed. I mean actually stoned in a soccer stadium because of her religion, because she wasn't wearing her hijab, or and this is terrible, guys. This is what happens. I'm being completely honest with you. She'll get raped by someone within the Taliban, and guess what? That's her fault. So who's dying? It's not the guy that's the Taliban, it's her. And then we have to, and I see that here. I see that, well, we got to look like we still have it terrible here. So let's just make this awful and make it terrible as we can and make it worse than what it actually is, so we can compare to the atrocities that's going on in Africa, and I do see that. I've seen that over the years, and that's just my assumption. We were actually all having all fun, and now I just went all dark. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, you threw in the COVID thing. I was talking. And actually, we do have to get to Jim, but I did want to ask one thing real quick, because I was just curious of it. Do they hold the concealed carries at the same time in different states? Because I just thought it was a weird coincidence. I was on Facebook and I noticed my friend, former Major Will Rodriguez, also in a classroom taking his concealed carry.
Right now, there's a ton of them going on. It's just like buying ammunition, buying guns, and so forth. There's not a lot of open classes like I'm able to do one in Oklahoma, but how many have I had to cancel? I've had to cancel 3 of them. CCW classes are very, very controlled, where you can limit the amount of people coming in, so you can stay within that 10 person social distancing, common courtesy. That's what I think it still is, common courtesy distance. And they're running them continuously. Like Sean has 3 a week, where generally he's not able to do that many because he's running other courses, more advanced courses. But since a lot of those you can't do because ranges are closed down and so forth, CCWs are just running. And also, more people have guns, as people are finding out just by the number of courses, brother. And I know we got to get to Jim, but by the number of courses people are having, you're seeing that most people, if the majority of people that are buying guns out there or having guns or obtaining guns are law-abiding. So they're making sure they're legal so they can carry them legally and not get into trouble. So I think that's another reason too. There's more CCW courses for those reasons. Generally though, those no bro, they're every state runs them different because every state has different regulations. Just because I have a CCW in Nebraska doesn't mean I fall underneath the same rules within Virginia or of course New York or California. So everybody's different, but right now definitely there's more CCW courses for those reasons.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious, and I guess this makes a good segue because a guy who knows a thing or two about weapons is Jim West. And before we get to him, Fort Scott Munitions. If you're one of those concealed carriers, you're going to want to get on board with them. It's a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in every state, as well as directly online through fortscottmunitions.com, FortScottmunitions.com. Use exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. We're so blessed to have them on board as a sponsor, and I truly mean that because, at this time, a lot of companies are suffering with everything going on. People are losing their jobs. People don't have the disposable income that they normally would. And people, luckily for them, as a family-owned businesses, are buying ammo. So check them out. Once again, Fort Scott Munitions, promo code Battleline for 15% off. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Paranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. And I see Jim just wrote me and he said, "Are we up?" So I am going to add Jim to the call right now. Yeah, joining us for the first time on the podcast is, I genuinely mean this, Jim, one of my favorite people in the world, James Smokey West, retired Green Beret, martial arts expert, the creator of American Extension Fighting. You heard Jack Murphy talk about him on his episode. You heard Dale Comstock talk about him. I mean, truly a legend in the special operations community. So excited to have you on. And actually, I was going to ask how your house arrest is going, but I spoke to you yesterday, and it sounds like things are going good because this current book that you have out, A Mind for the Fight, American Extension Fighting, is getting you some interesting offers, it sounds like.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised. From my small world, I would say it's catching on fire, but in the bigger world, I would say it's more of a burning ember, and it's getting ready to grow wings and become a forest fire down the road. Many of the actual legends of American karate, everyone from Gary Lee that runs the American Sports Karate Museum to Jimmy Hartley, George Clark, Bob Wall, who's Chuck Norris's business partner, and a whole cast of characters. They're all in this club. Many of the guys are in their 80s, but they created this American karate business many, many years ago. And they're so far behind it. I mean, even after we talked, I think yesterday, they said as soon as we get this quarantine lifted, they want me in Texas. They want me to come out to Kansas and do a seminar for these, grandmasters. I'm like, wow, what an honor, right? So yeah, it's really. I've done iHeartRadio already with Royce Bartlett, on Shooting Straight.
Yeah.
I've done the TRS podcast and a few other things. It's just sitting here. You write a book, and I was actually talking to one of my friends a while back who's a 10th degree black belt. And I said, it's funny, everybody knows a little bit about fighting and martial arts, but it seems like if you knock a couple of people out and write a book, it kind of goes a long way.
You talk, Rob, all those names. The one that sticks out to me is Bob Wall, Robert Wall. You talk, is that the same Robert Wall in the Bruce Lee movies, Enter the Dragon, Game of Death, and all that? Man, he was a badass. That dude. And did you knock him? I want to know if you knocked him out, man. He's always getting knocked out in the movies.
Never knocked out Bob Wall. Bob Wall's an interesting guy. There's a common bond between a few of us, and he's probably the godfather. He's probably been beat up by everybody, and he's probably beat most everybody. And
Everybody,
he's
yep.
yeah, he studied probably every martial arts in the world, and he's been Chuck Norris's business partner since I think '68.
Wow.
Even when Joe Louis got out of the Marine Corps in '64, Joe used to rent a room from Bob. I mean,
Oh, no.
they used to fight all the time. I mean, but he's a big time street fighter. He's the real deal.
Yeah, that's what I always heard, and I always because I followed, studied, and watched, and he was always that one, the guy that was always losing the fights in the movies. But then I did my background. I'm like, man, this dude, that's a humble guy to be in the movies all the time and either lose to Chuck Norris or lose to Bruce Lee, but knowing that, man, he could probably beat their asses off the set was, to me, that meant a lot, because that just says a lot about his character. And man, if you're partnered with him, being humble, and I know you as a warrant officer, and I know you from the community, brother. I know you're a badass too, but you're humble as well, and so that means a lot. And I think people should know that out there with just the names you mentioned, man. Damn right. Yeah, get your book and check. I bet you learn a lot from it. Just humility, but also how to kick somebody's ass, would be humble about it. Is that? Can you do that? Can you kick their asses, then help them up? Help them. Hey, you're good, bro. Get out of here.
Yeah. So I have to tell you, the book itself, the title is "A Mind for the Fight," by James Smokey West. But a little shameless plug there, Ian. But it doesn't.
No, go ahead.
It doesn't teach you how to throw a kick or even a punch. But what I did all the way back from the 1500s, back from the day of the samurai and stuff, Musashi's 5 rings. I mean, they had developed these 20 technical fight principles, and then back in the mid 50s, 56, 57, Robert Trias, big huge Tex-Mex, big awesome karate guy. He founded the United States Karate Association, and he was a military guy and a street fighter as well. Another very humble guy, but humble beginnings. But I got to tell you, they wrote, mainly Joe Louis with Bruce Lee's input. They took the original fight principles, and they had created back in the 60s these 23 technical fight principles. And within my book, they're still there, but they're bundled, they're rolled up in different ways. I rewrote the technical fight principles for the first time in our history, and they're now 10 technical fight principles, which Royce Bartlett says, wow, he was really blown away by the book. And he says, like when you talk about all these ancient secrets and stuff, and the way he described it, he says, well, Jim, you've taken the cookies from the top shelf and you put them down on the bottom shelf and made them easily digestible. And I'm like, wow, that's really a great compliment, because it's not just geared for the world's greatest fighters or any kind of fighter. It's geared for anyone, any sort of person that has been a victim or would be or wants to learn. This book dives into the mindset of how to develop the ability to deal with a violent situation, extreme violence, and turn your defense into an offense literally in a second or two. And the psychology is written into the book as well. And my co-writer, Justin McCauley, his fiance, Valerie, she does the psychological research for the University of Maryland, and she did a deep dive into it and said the book is 100% aligned with what the psychologists and psychiatrists are putting out today. And it's and a lot of it, Chris, has to do with from my own personal experiences and therapy, from not just all the street fights and stuff, but from combat and what the post-traumatic stress and all the therapy sessions. There's a lot of science behind that, and if you have all the experiences of military, traditional institutionalized karate, military, real street fights, and if you have all of that stuff and you accepted what's offered out there to help you make the second half of your journey, which I have, I'll tell you, there's a lot to learn.
Well, you never stop learning. It's always ever changing, the evolution of fighting, the evolution of mindset. I mean, there's a common base that you have, and I know that's in there because you've done it more than I have. You've been through a lot more than I have. And wisdom says a lot. Having street smarts or wisdom says a lot. You have all that, and that's cool that you're keeping it simple for most people out there, that they can take it from the beginning and know that mindset is the most important. Physicality, you have to be physical. You have to have some form of endurance. You have to have some training, but it comes right down to mindset initially. If you don't have that strong mindset, doesn't matter how much of a badass you think you are. If you panic under pressure, you're going to lose 9 times out of 10 unless you get that lucky shot in. And that's where I ask, because people can learn the hard skills. It's that mindset and how to control that emotion that is something that is harder to learn unless you go into the community or unless you are out there bouncing at the double deuce with Patrick Swayze every once in a while. I'm kidding. There's no such thing as Patrick Swayze and double. I'm just kidding. But what I'm saying is you're out there in the mix all the time, and you just develop it just because that's your job to do. Or like I said, SF or Rangers or SEAL stuff, they put you through that duress to deal with your adrenaline because they don't want you to cave when it's time to get after it. So, brother, that's why I admire, and I tell people, read this book. Don't learn the hard skills, yes, but damn, get with somebody that's been there, done that, and has the mindset and has trained with the best, but then has also done the real world stuff out there. That's where you're going to learn what the mindset really is. But then it's always up to the person. Can they control themselves? Even though they have all these experiences, they can read about it. Can they control that adrenaline, that fight or flight? And then the aftermath, you're right. The aftermath doesn't matter if somebody's bleeding and you cause that person to bleed. Most people, that's going to bother them down the line. Most people. I'm not saying all people. I don't think I'm going to classify you there, Jim. But the standard layman person, it's going to bother them a little bit for the rest of their lives. And we get to the point too, and let's talk about it. You take somebody's life, it's going to bother. It's going to be with you, whether it bothers you or not. In some aspects, it's going to bother. But if you have to do that for your defense, well, it doesn't matter if you're in the right or wrong, it's still going to stay with you. But that mindset first is where that comes from, so it doesn't eat you up and then you go down that rabbit hole and take your own life, when you just can't deal with it anymore. So that's important, man. I would always recommend, especially something that you've written. Is written a word? Did I say wrote? That's not a word.
It's a word now. And
it's a word now. It's a word in Fort Benning, Georgia. Something that you've written. If you've written it, but that you've written, you've got the experience, the mindset. Read the mindset stuff first, and then learn the hard skills, man. Because I said I just admire people that get that, because that's how I learned. I learned the mindset first. What was I have to think? And that was the hardest thing. And it still is the hardest thing to take control of. So, I do. Shameless. You're not shameless plugging. I want people to read your book because that's something I read. That's something I'm going to read too when it is, but it's not out yet. I haven't seen it.
It's out. It's out.
Is it? Well,
yes,
we also don't. All our Barnes and Nobles are closed here too, though.
No, it's up on Amazon, and I'll plug it as well. Yeah, people can check it out. A Mind for the Fight, American Extension Fighting. It's self-published by Jim. But yeah, I don't know if you want to get into what Tonto was just saying, Jim.
Chris brought up some really good points when he talked about mindset. Because we were all very physical people at one time, and I just turned 66, and hell, I've had.
I know, which by the way is so crazy, Jim. I can't believe it.
Yeah, tell people about your injuries, but then the mindset, because I want people to know that, man. You've been beat up sometimes of your own accord too. And when I say beat up, I don't mean losing fights. I mean you're going to get beat up if you win a fight too. You're going to get beat up. It's just how it is most of the time.
Several fights I've been in. I looked in the mirror the next morning. And it's like I actually won this fight. Holy crap! But the part about the physicality, because as you get older and maybe you've been wounded in combat or a car crash, or like I just had shoulder surgery, you have to know how to make what you have work, so
good point.
That's really important. I mean, and I was going to read real quick, and my 4th principle, speaking about the 10 principles, is stay calm and make critical decisions with your movement under stress. So, how you conduct yourself once the fight starts is key to your survival. In many ways, they're simply fundamentals for any fighter in training but they're also incredibly important to someone protecting themselves in the street. And the critical elements are, avoid tension, stay relaxed, So anyway, the book itself, and it's really a lot deeper than that. Just the title, for example, it's just when I used to train with Joe Louis, he said several things through our years, but one of the things that really stuck with me, he was a former Marine as well, is that the most important thing that a fighter can do, or if you're in a conflict, is to be able to make critical decisions under fire.
Yeah.
A part of that is knowing a lot and just using a little. Having, and this book gives you a lot of mental ammunition that you can reach out to the stars and draw from when you're under stress. Because if you study and read and maybe follow up with some personal training, if your mind can engage in anything other than that fight, and what you really should be thinking about is survival, then you just tend to react a lot faster. And it in many cases, if you're being assaulted in the street or something, it creates fight confusion, because if you think about your opponent, he's there with one thing in his mind, and that's to inflict maximum damage and extreme violence on you as a victim. And the moment in the first second, he realizes you're just not going to lay down and become a victim, it's going to change his mindset immediately to defense. He's instantaneously playing catch up, right? So
yeah,
there's ammunition in this book and the psychological side of the house for people to study and go, wow, makes sense,
And that perfect. Some of y'all out there, you tactician guys, you'll hear people say OODA loop. Well, that's exactly what Jim's saying. You're resetting that attacker's OODA loop. You're putting him on his heels, or the initiative. You're taking that initiative away, and you're resetting the mindset where he comes up to get you, and maybe you pop him in the face. Like, wait a second, I wasn't planning on that. And then he has to rethink. He has to rethink and go through his process all over again, where now you've got the initiative and you got him on his heels, and you've got that space to. And guys, it's okay sometimes to run. If you that you can either get the hell away, or you can pop them again, or do whatever you need to stop the threat. We use stop the threat. I say that around law enforcement, but if you have to, and you have to, don't go out to kill anybody, guys. But if you have to, you may have to. People have a hard time hearing that. I don't want to hear it's not a PC society. Well, you may have to kill a guy, especially if he's trying to kill you or she's trying to kill you or something. But sometimes, and majority of the time, the best thing to do is just you create that space, get the hell away, get out of there, go. I'm out. I'm done. Leave me alone. But you're right on, Jim. I mean, that is the simplest way to put it. And I love hearing that. And again, a lot of the layman out there doesn't know what OODA loop is. They're going to have to look it up. Well, you just said it right there, and you ranger proofed it. So if I can understand it, anybody can fucking understand it. So
right.
Well said. Well, and that's spot on. That is so spot on. And that's why guys like myself look up to you and what you did and what you're currently doing. That's where we're learning it from. And you're right. And you're right. As you get older, I can't do the things I used to do. So whatever I can do, I'm going to be able to do it well. But then you're right. Also to hit it, learn everything. So you have all that experience to pull out of that kit bag when you have to use an habitual movement, and then but you may only use a few of those things in that kit bag, but you want to have that kit bag full so you have things to pull out. And that's just all from learning and training.
And Jim is still able to do a hell of a lot. I can tell you. I've seen Jim choke out guys who are younger than me, just as a demonstration. And then I'll tell you guys a funny Jim story, kind of switching gears that you might be able to get into, Jim. I remember being in Vegas with you at that Steakhouse 9, and outside there you ran into a guy that you trained with years back. And in the middle of the casino, Jim is demonstrating all these moves on this guy. And every few minutes, there's security guards coming up to me. I'm like, break it up, right, guys, break it up. And Jim was like, no, I'm just playing around. I'm demonstrating on this guy. Yeah. And you kept doing it. That was hilarious to see.
That was hilarious. That was Marco Ciccione. He was a former pro boxer. He was also on the Italian national team, and he was then he was from Palermo, Italy originally. They moved to Canada. And he fought for Canada for a while, and he was Arturo Gotti's sparring partner. And then he came to me for training. And a funny story is we went out and got in one of these barroom brawls one night, and some guy hit me in the face. He suckered me with a full bottle of beer, leaving 26 stitches over my eyes, but I actually ended up getting the better of all that stuff. But we went into the bathroom because somebody said the cops are coming. And I took the top off the toilet and rolled up some toilet paper. I'm stopping all the bleeding and stuff. And Marco's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "That's the same water in the toilet as you drink in your sink." And he's like, "Oh my God." So then my ex-wife, she's like, "Oh, you got to go to the doctor." I didn't want to go. I wanted to stitch myself up, which I was trying to do, and I'd been drinking. So it wasn't working out really well. So I finally got tired of hearing all the noise. And so Marco and I went to the doctor, and they were going to take me in to get stitched up. And my ex-wife says, "Well, I'll go in with him." I said, "No, no, no." I said, "Marco's coming in with me." So I'm on the gurney, and they're cleaning me up. And they take this needle from behind the eye, and they stick it through, and they flush out all that junk. I was using Vaseline and crap, So I had to clean it out. And then they were going to give me a lidocaine. I said, "No, I believe in natural healing. I don't want any painkillers." And so, your face bleeds like mad anyway. When you start adding, water and stuff, and Marco's standing there like, "What the hell do I got to be here for?" I said, "You want to fight, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, get used to it." And he's like, he quit fighting and went out and started dealing and working in restaurants in Vegas.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious. That's why you said ex-wife, right? Ex-wife?
Yeah.
Or wife? Yeah. If you go invite your friend into the emergency room without you, that's probably not good for the relationship.
Well, look, you got to have your brothers in arms and brothers in fight. Martial arts is a loyalty amongst. I'm kind of old school, but I think we all have our place and our friends and our own little worlds. That's why we can have this conversation here from far apart and not not ever sitting at the same table, just like brothers, because you've been through your own trials, and you paid a lot of dues that I have nothing but brutal respect for, and then the fact that you get back on your feet and do everything that you're doing to survive, and not just survive but thrive, really get it going. I'm just thrilled to be a part of this whole thing with Ian in the middle. It's awesome.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. Because I used to I never hit in the face with a beer bottle. So you still got me, man. You still got me. Definitely, and that's okay. I'll be happy to say that in my deathbed, going, "Yep, Jim still got more on me," because I've never been smacked in the face. And what was it, 56 or 26 stitches you had to get?
That was 26. 26 that time. I've been hit with 4 beer bottles, and one of them didn't break on the first strike. So, and I've never been knocked down.
Hey, now that one, I'll tell listeners out there, that one did that one hurt the worst? I would say the one that bounces, not the one that breaks, but the one that bounces probably hurt the worst. Or if you even felt it at the time, you probably were either. We'll just say adrenaline up. We won't say anything else but that. We'll just say
I didn't feel it at all. I just got pissed off, and I tucked my head because my buddy grabbed me, and he thought he knows what happens when I get aggravated, and he shoved me into a bar and pinned my arms by my side. And I looked up, and the jackass was swinging the beer bottle for a second time, so I tucked my head and picked it off on my forehead, and I never blinked. And I could watch the beer bottle bust, and it was a Coors Light. I'll never forget, because I read the label as it dragged across my face, and it kept the glass. So I got 26 over there and an additional 13 in my nose and face.
Oh, that boy! I tell you what, that's impressive, and that's a hell of a story. But that's some toughness right there. That can you learn? I don't know if you can learn that toughness. I think you either have it or you don't. But I don't know, brother. You're the pro. You're the subject matter expert on that. Because again, I've never been hit in the face with a beer bottle.
You actually can. It's kind of weird. I mean, it sucks. At some point in time, you have to be engaged in some rough and tumble sports, football, soccer,
sure.
Boxing, karate. But you can teach that. I've learned through the years. Like, if you think about a soccer player, they're always bouncing that ball off their head. They're not bouncing the ball off the top soft spot in their head. They're bouncing off the crown bone with their eyes open for the ball. And so little techniques like that with minor pushing and shoving, you'll be amazed. I've taken people that knew nothing, never been in a fight, and literally within 10 minutes, they're throwing full shots. And I tell you, a lot of people are afraid to hurt other people. They'd rather be hurt. But man, I mean, literally in 10 minutes, they're just rocking, So you can
Jim, do you
teach.
know? I was gonna say, do you know on the podcast with Dale Comstock, and Dale is truly a badass, and I'm sure you've heard him say it, but he said that you are the only man he has ever been afraid of in his entire life.
Yep, he said that. I remember hearing it too.
Yeah,
What did
Dale's a great guy. He just he's like a lot of guys. I'm sort of a hard-headed guy, and I know how to ride punches and take them. It's not just that I got a hard head. There's a lot of deception in how to ride a punch, So people think they're hitting you when they're really not. And it's like a Venus flytrap. I've done so much sparring and fighting in my life. I'm really comfortable riding punches. And when I suck them into that next step, a piece of that's called footwork, but they walk into that right hand, which I learned to throw an overhand right from a guy named Billy Crane, who was a former Special Forces guy and a very legitimate badass. And his daddy was a sparring partner for Rocky Marciano. So basically, when you get hit by my overhand right, you're getting hit by the same technique that Rocky used to throw.
Wow. Yeah, I'll take your word for that one. Yeah, all right. Unless I have to, I'll bet. Yeah, I'll take your word for that. Or you can hit Ian. I'll watch it and see what he says. That's fine with me.
I'm a man of peace.
Hey Jim, you know what I think would be interesting is the guys that we've had on the show are typically, I mean, Dale's a little bit older, but typically guys in about Chris's age range of, 40s, 50s, and I know a lot of people in the audience are very read up on the Green Berets and what Special Forces does exactly. I was wondering if maybe you wanted to get into what are some of the differences between Special Forces group when you were in there and Special Forces group of today.
Be great.
Well,
yep.
There was a transitional phase, but everything's changed from not just the politics of the game and political correctness and budgetary needs and criteria, but at the end of the day, and I'll get into it, but at the end of the day, a person that graduates, he's paid pretty hefty dues just by not quitting, sticking with the program. But back in the old days, I mean, we didn't have hot and cold running water any time of the year. We lived in these shanties that with no conditioned air, no doors. We had burn barrels out there like they had in Vietnam and Korea to take a crap in, and so it was the environment was totally different. It was more old school, unconventional warfare. Colonel Mize was the camp commander when I was there, and he was a Medal of Honor winner from the Korean War. He actually killed 16 Koreans with an entrenching tool after they ran out of beans and bullets.
Wow.
And he's a little man, but he's in a book called War Heroes. But Olamai, so just a mentality, right? And then back in those days, there was not much consideration if you were struggling through the course and felt like you wanted to get set back and recycle. If you failed, you were done. You had to go to wherever you go. So I think the motivation was extremely high. So a lot of times we just put up with a lot more injury, like whether it's, blisters on your feet, your back giving out, whatever, and on the other hand, the newer guys, I mean, all those courses, Chris, are basically designed around the Rangers, of getting 4 hours of sleep a day and not always at one time. So, to keep you under combat stress. But one of the biggest differences is the mindset that if I don't make it, I'll never get this chance again. So you just put up with a lot more. And there was a lot more, I don't know how it was, how it is today, but, like when we went through survival portion, they starve you for 3 days. You're running on empty full time anyway. They take you out there and they kill a few rabbits and kill a few snakes, rattlesnakes, and you kill some chickens. They teach you how to calm everything down. But when we cut these goats' throats, we have to stand there and fill up our canteen cups and drink the blood out of their neck as it's bleeding out, right? So it's kind of that brotherhood, right? So it's a little different.
And I'll be the first to say this, and I think even the ones going through nowadays, there is truth to saying I've been through the last hard class because yes, every class before mine, everything before mine was harder. It is, and that is due just to what you said. Not because guys can't take it. It's because of political correctness. It's because of budgets. It's because of honestly. It's because the motivation. Guys physically are still tough enough, but I think the motivation doesn't get as strong as it did in the past. Because you can recycle. You can recycle 5 times and still finally get through. I mean,
I've heard that.
Oh no, you can't. You can. Guys will. There were guys, and I'll give example during Ranger School when I was going through. Yeah, and I'll tell you, rip or rasp was harder than Ranger School. Rip was hard. Rip, even though it was shorter, getting to go to the 75th was a lot harder. And I equated to just thinking this way: Rip is getting jacked in the face hard as somebody can from a foot away, just bam. Ranger School is like a little punch, just a little tap, but it just happens for 3 months. So it's just freaking annoying. You just got to put up. You just got to put up with it. But what I say is that guys at Florida phase, they'd want to get recycled because you'd have to wait for the next class, which could be 30 days later. And when you're doing that, you're not under 4 hours or less sleep a night. You could eat and guys would get there and get fat and they'd want to stay. So when the next class came around, they would just roll right through that cycle. If we had, and I was very lucky to go straight through, didn't have any injuries. I didn't recycle, which I didn't want to recycle. I'm getting through
who
this
wants to
first
do that
time.
twice?
This shit, this shit sucks. But there are people that will stay. There were a guy, and I know some. I've seen 3 times, and they would purposely, and that was the word when I was going through. If you're going to recycle, don't recycle Benning, don't recycle Desert, don't recycle Mountains in Dahlonega. Recycle so you can hang out the Gator Bar on your time off. Just do details around the base and eat pizza and ice cream till your next phase came up. And so, bro, I completely agree with that, and I will say it. I will never disagree with somebody that went through something before me. I know it was harder before I went through, and I'll tell you right now, to all you guys are going through right now, my class was harder than yours, and it will always be that way because of political correctness, because of we need bodies, because we can't get the motivated. We're just not as motivated as a country as we were when you were there. And bro, I don't know if you can say the same thing about the guys that were in Battle of the Bulge or World War I, but I would say that maybe even the cases was then that maybe even they were even a little tougher. Now that's being said, you're a tough son of a bitch, so I don't know, but that's what I'm just trying to get at is I will always be that way because our country just, god dang, it's just I ever get a little bit softer, a little bit softer.
Yeah, my daddy was in the Battle of the Bulge. And,
holy shit, I didn't know that.
When he used to bare knuckle box, and when he got out of the military, he was a union sheet metal worker and an iron worker for almost 50 years. Wow. And I never knew he was in the Battle of the Bulge until he was getting close to his deathbed. He had all this stuff hidden in his attic, and I was like, holy cow.
Wow. Well, who was he with? If you don't mind me asking, who was he with? Which unit? Was he 101st or was he? I don't. That's the only unit that I really know. I've read.
No, he was actually he strapped hang because he was in the Army when the Army used to be Army Aviation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But he was a very hard man. His mother was originally from Italy, and his dad was from Germany. So, and he was just like an Iron Man, just solid. Did all the cooking, housekeeping, worked on cars, bowling, But he could punch the center of a wood door out with one punch.
Holy crap! And that's amazing. You get the toughness. I'm sure. Good genes, that toughness gene does come through every once in a while. That's amazing. I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for, and that's why I joined the Rangers. I used to read about the Rangers, the hunter killer teams in Vietnam. That's what made me want to be a Ranger. From I think it was Charlie Rangers is the book I used to read, and wow. I was like, man. And that was when I was in junior high and high school. That's what push me to want to go to Ranger battalions. Like, these guys are badasses. Oh my Lord, 2 weeks out in the bush and dropped off, and then it's similar to what the ODAs, the SF teams were doing there in Vietnam as well. But I don't know. I think it's just probably that was the first thing I picked up. And when they were wearing the black berets and they started wearing them, I'm like, man, that's badass. And then I did my due diligence about Colonel Darby and how they used to vet with the British, where they would throw live grenades at them and stuff. And I'm like, man, that's where I want to go. So no, it's amazing. And again, I believe that, and I do believe that. Yeah, so it was always harder. You guys are tougher than us. You are. Plain and simple.
Yeah, Chris. Oddly enough, when I went through basic training back in those days, they were throwing live grenades and 50 cal machine guns.
That's awesome. They need to do that shit. What in the world? They need to, live grenades. Nothing gets you left alone like a live grenade. That's so.
We had a guy commit suicide on the rifle range, and we, he's sitting in one of the foxholes, and boom, it sounded like a misfire. And brains came running down. I was 17 years old at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first wake-up call. Hey, this shit's real,
That's crazy,
if we get into a little bit, we'll get that. Is it just one of those things? Did you see something going on with him? And I think this helps too. It might help somebody down the line. Were you friends with him? Was there indications, or was it just the stress? Because it is basic training. Even when I went through a 95, I could tell the difference when I got kicked. And Jim, I don't know if people know that a lot of people do that. Listen to the show, but I got an honorable discharge out, but I shouldn't have. But I got kicked out of the Army the first time I was in. I had to do basic training again. I went through all that crap again, and I could tell with even in a 4-year span of me going in 95 and 99, it was easier. And so was it just when he did it, was it just the stress? He just away from home, or was there some other indicators that, and again, I know shit just happens sometimes in basic training.
It was probably a combination. And plus it's like the DIs will single certain people out, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, back then you got to remember, there was no such thing as a computer. We didn't have telephones. We couldn't call home. They just throw you on a bus. You wake up in the middle of January at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and 10 degrees outside in the middle of the night, being screamed and hollered at. And all the DIs were wounded from either Vietnam, Korea, or even World War II.
Wow.
And physical hazing wasn't only legal; it was encouraged, strongly encouraged back then. So it was just totally different. The stuff that they didn't, you didn't have these nice little rooms.
Yeah.
Right. They had probably enough hot water for about the first maybe 10 minutes, and they come kicking you out of your bunks. We lived in those 30-man bays. They had 6 toilets, 6 shower heads, and 6 sinks. And the toilets, they didn't have any divider walls, none of that shit. I mean, you assholes and elbows.
Yeah. You're high-fiving each other, taking a deuce. Like, good job, man. I don't think that is unnecessary, to be honest with you. There was physical hazing, not as bad as when you went to, obviously. I know there wasn't, but when I went through 95, there was. And then when I went back through again, and that's the beauty of, it's a blessing now I can talk about it and see the difference, just even in a 4-year period. Going back again after in 99, we had to do basic training and airborne and RIP and go back to range battalion. When I did say, I can even tell the second time there wasn't, and even just when I say physical hazing, there wasn't even just the amount of PT hazing that we had to do was different in 99 than in 95. And what was shocking me than anything too is when I went through back again, everybody had a Ranger tab when I went through the first time. Everybody didn't have to be a Ranger battalion, but I had a lot of former 75th guys, and everybody had that tab, or they had a long tab. All the DIs did, or DS, drill sergeants, drill instructors, whatever you want to call them. Well, I went through the second time. I think we had one, and he was the senior drill instructor. He'd been from 3rd Ranger Battalion. Every other drill instructor did not. And that being said, it's different than when you went through, because you guys actually were getting guys from combat. At that time, when I was going through, it was pre-peacetime. So we didn't have former combat guys either. Nobody had CIBs except for the Rangers that had gone through, whether it been through Somalia, Black Hawk Down. So, bro, it changed, and you're right. You could see the effect. You can see, and I think it needs to harden up a little bit.
Chris, I can still remember the name of my drill sergeants. They were so hard on us, so impressionable back in the day.
What were they? I still remember mine. What? Tell me what was your? Do you remember your 3? Go ahead.
there were two for me. There was a guy named Encanaso. He was like Foghorn Leghorn, and there was Brody. And Encanaso was from somewhere up north, and I was very southern at the time, and he would make us low crawl across through the gravel in the middle of the winter to the mess hall, and with all your gear on, and he'd be hollering. I said, it sounded just like Foghorn Leghorn. I said low crawl, and he'd come over and kick you in the heart. You get your damn head shot off if you high crawl, and literally kicking you in the head and stuff, So
there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's how you have to learn. I remember mine was Drill Sergeant Harney, Charles, and Graham. And Drill Sergeant Harney was this big black dude, and he looked like the devil. The dude was a demon, and he actually turned up getting to be first sergeant of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. That's where that's how disciplined. Wow. This guy was straight up disciplined. But at the end I hated him. I thought he was the devil at the beginning, and he just would crush us daily. But at the end of it, I loved the guy. He taught me more about anything. Just straight up discipline that I learned. And then Charles and Graham, both Ranger Tab guys, they were typical Georgia Southern. The Army and the infantry is their life, and bro, they beat the hell out of us too. But I loved them. At the end of it, and I don't know if you felt the same, but at the end of it, I did have some respect for them, because I did have a lot of respect for them. But at the beginning, I feared them. Yeah, they scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, Chris, my upbringing was a little different because when I was in high school, both my brothers were in Vietnam, and my cousins, grew up next to them. They were all in Vietnam, all special ops guys. They had like 3 TV channels, and my mom was sitting there drinking every night. 58 guys were killed today. There's no way of knowing, unless someone showed up at your house.
Wow.
And so, it was, and I was fighting a lot as a kid. I mean, I was always in trouble, always fighting. I turned 17, dropped out of school. I'm like, you know what? I literally told my mom, I said, I don't want to be sitting at a bar when I'm old enough to drink with my brothers and not have a war story. Do you mind if I just get my GED and join the fucking Army? Excuse my language. Yeah.
Hey, Jim, I wanted to ask you something that kind of goes back to something. I wanted to ask you something that goes back to something you said just a few minutes ago. You were saying how your father didn't tell you all these stories until he was about to pass away. I know for you, because I've known you for a while, there was a pretty long period of time where, as you say, you were like in your man cave, didn't really come out, didn't talk to people. Jack Murphy is actually one of the guys that kind of encouraged you to come out, tell your story. So 100%. What was that like? I mean, you had quite a few years there where you didn't want to talk about your service, and you didn't want to talk to people in general, and people at that time who knew you even described you as this angry guy, which is so funny to me because I know you, and I think people listening to this hear it. I know you as an extremely friendly guy.
Well, there are a lot of things that happen. I mean, as you transition through the ranks, and for me, and Chris, you'll understand this, I'm sure. But for me, back in the day, it was, I didn't ask a question. We came in. Yours is not to question why. Yours is but to do or die. Yeah. And that black and white, all or none mentality, it's all I had and all I knew. And even when I retired, I just moved on to the next thing, which was training fighters. And then I did a little bit of contract work, and I was doing so well with the fighters. I got these billionaire group of guys that kind of where I am today, but they got me involved with a gym setup and embezzled all my money within a year. I see how they got rich. And then, so I had a former student whose dad was a former Navy SEAL, and he's, hey, you want to get into construction? I said, sure. You want to make $1,000 a week? I said, man, I gotta pay the bills, whatever. So that was 23 years ago, and I was angry and still fighting and drinking and back, even then. And I was never really one to talk about that stuff, but unless I was around somebody that had real experience, and immediately who does and who doesn't,
Yeah.
So yeah. And then 17 years ago this April, in fact, my birthday is April the 8th, my oldest son got brutally murdered in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And that was, it sent me into a really dark spot, and it probably took 4 or 5 years for me to wake up one day and go, I need to change a few things. I need help, because your first thought is just, blow your brains out, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's another story. But I made it through that, and I decided to go to the VA one day, and I showed up at the VA, and I said, "Hey, look, why are you here?" I said, "I think I might have some PTSD," and so why do you feel that way? I said, well, these are my exact words. I said, well, because I'm functionally fucked up. What do you mean? I said, well,
Well, that's spot on. No, keep going. I've been.
yeah,
Yep. I've been there too.
yeah, I get up every day. I go to work. I'm good at what I do, and I get home, and and I close the door and the curtains, and that's pretty much the end of it. Except what's floating around in my head. And as I started going around through the VA and therapy, and I went to cognitive processing therapy, and at one point in time, it dawned on me that, one of the biggest things about being a combat veteran and everything is, with PTSD is, and there's different types of PTSD, but if you've been in real combat, most likely you're a victim of collateral damage, women and children, and you don't think about those things. I've been a witness to some of that stuff in my military days. And then when my son got killed, I immediately felt like, for some reason, I was being punished for everything that I've done in my life, everything I should be proud of and respectful of. So I really went into a dark place and didn't want to talk about anything, because I just felt guilty and shameful, which that's turned around with the help of Ian, guys like you, Chris, putting your story out there, Jack Murphy pulling me out of my cage. I mean, just writing books and stuff is therapeutic to me, and now I'm starting to trust people just like you two guys. I feel comfortable, and truthfully, my livelihood's tied to it as well. So, I'm all in. Don't get me wrong. I would save my own life or somebody else's at just about any expense if I had to. But other than that, I know enough to be able to talk my way in and around and out of things, and so it's easier to focus on trying to do the right thing and be the right kind of person, and we do have kids and people that look up to us, so we have to become a role model after a while, if you live long enough, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're right, man. Jim, I know what you're saying. Not to the extent of losing my son, and I can't even imagine. I mean, I've got a 15-year-old and a 4-year-old, two sons, and you're right. After all you've been through. And I'm thinking about that now. If that happens, and God forbid, and I don't plan on it happening with my boys, but I'd be the same way. Like, what the hell? Why? I sacrificed, volunteered, I did everything I thought I should do, and then this is going to happen to me. And you do. You want to. It's part of my friends, but you want to say fuck the world, and you to come out of that is amazing. Is amazing, because that would be tough for any guy that's been through everything that you did, gave up everything that you did, served your country, and you served it during a time where you had politicians shit on you. I get that a little bit. I understand that a bit, where politicians shit on you after you serve and you come home. And I get that. I do. Not to the extent you guys do, but I feel like I understand that, because I still feel the same, and how that can anger you. And then then getting your shit back together, starting to trust people again, which I still have a hard time trusting people. And I've 3 times, I'm luckily I'm not good at it. I've been down the road where I've done the crying game in the shower with the Glock in my mouth, going, I don't want to do this anymore. When I was estranged from my family, when me and my wife had divorced, we reconciled, but I was going down a bad road. But to have that happen too, like I said, I've never been hit in the head with a beer bottle. I haven't been and felt that traumatic experience of losing my son, which I can't even imagine that. And you just still get back up on your horse again. That's toughness, man. I think people, again, they need to hear that. They need to see that. So when they're afraid that they're going to run out of toilet paper, maybe they take a second and say, wait a second, it's not as bad as I think it is. It's not as bad as it could be. We can get through this.
Yeah, there was a time shortly after his death that, I just literally pulled into my driveway and pulled out my 357 and stuck it in my mouth, and I swear to God, it's like my son. I could hear his voice, like, well, "What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You're better than that." And it was sort of a wake up call, And then I realized I had another son, So you got to be there, You got to be present. You got to be there, no matter what. Pay your dues along the way.
Well,
And,
that's
and
awesome.
I've met your other son, Richard, and he's a great guy. And it's funny because I would never think he was your son meeting him just off the street. He's a lot more of just like it doesn't have the same intensity as you. And then also, I mean, people don't know. Jim, you're originally from Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jim, for those who don't know, obviously you hear the Southern accent, but Jim has lived in the New York metro area for quite a while now. So your son sounds more like a New Yorker. He doesn't sound anything like you. So yeah, if I just met Richard off the street, I would never think he was your son. He was a great guy meeting him.
Yeah. Plus he's got his mom's half Japanese, so he's got the black hair and all that. So he's got And the funny thing about it is, I've spent my entire life with him and with my other son, trying to train them not to be like me.
Yeah. You be better than me, son. Be better than me. Don't do the stuff
Don't do it.
Don't do. I learned the hard way. That damn thing. If you could figure that out, could you tell me? Because whenever I just got to stop saying it to my son, because whenever I say it, he's like me, and he just does exactly the opposite of what I'm saying. So every time I tell him not to be like me, he is more like me. So I just figured it out. I just got to tell him to be exactly like me, and he'll do the opposite.
Well,
just because he won't listen to me.
When he gets his heart broken once or twice, and
Yeah.
he finds out that the only person that really understands his path, he'll start listening. So he probably got another 5 or 6 years before he starts dialing into you a little bit.
Isn't that right? He's got to get his heart broken a couple of times. Yeah, you hit that one on the head too.
Yeah.
Finally figure it out. That's amazing. That's amazing. I want to know, with coming up in the book, I know we talked a little bit about your past now and the mental toughness, and we did hit it on a little bit. But once this opens up, where can we find, if you're going to do a book signing tour? How can we figure that one out? Where are you going to be at when the libbity bibbity virus and all the hysteria ends up and we're out of lockdown? How can people figure out because are you going to do like a big tour, book signing tour, or demonstrations, and then put a book signing with it? Or are you going to do some speaking stuff and put the book signing with it? How can people find you? Because I think people need to just meet you and shake your hand. I think they get a lot out of that, just that right there.
Well, I intend on doing all that. Plan's not obviously cast in concrete yet.
Sure.
They can go to my, usually I'm starting to, I didn't do a lot of activity on my Facebook, but I'm doing a lot more now. And I just got involved with some people, and I think it would push back to July down at the Policeman's Hall of Fame down there.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be, they've got a date scheduled sometime in July, hopefully, with 600 law enforcement officers. I'm supposed to be doing a seminar and training with them.
Wow.
They want me to come out to Kansas and do some stuff. Actually, for a bunch of 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th degree black belts, they've asked me to come out, these legends.
That's
do a seminar for them, which is kind of stunning. But
you just have to watch your mouth a little bit. Just watch your be Jim. Don't be anything. Just be Jim. Yeah.
If you read this book, you'll find out it's so many levels to it that I spent a lot of time with my co-writer, a lot. Every word is chosen, for a reason. And no part of it is designed to say my karate or my stuff is better than yours. It is to show that, that there's an evolution in what we do, but it also pays respect for what other people have always been doing. So,
sure.
I'm surprised you have a different co-writer for this book, because I'll throw this out there. Jim's book previously to this, he was telling me about the co-writer for this book, and I was like, all right, you were like, could the co-writer come in? Your co-author on your last book, she was pretty hot, not gonna lie. She was a cool chick, and it was cool meeting her. She had like a fun personality and everything, but I was like, is Jim hitting this? Is this why this is his co-author?
No. Oddly enough, fighting at this level, listen, I've had guys, Roger Dabney, he's a 10th degree, he's in the Karate Hall of Fame. I've known him since he was 16. He's fought for world titles. Dale, they've tried to second guess me, get in front of what I'm thinking, work with me one-on-one for hours at a time, trying to figure out what's in my head and how I make it work. And the truth is, Justin McCauley, he's my co-writer. He's when you get the book, there's a picture of me standing with a young guy about 6, 7, 8 years old. That's Justin. He's 34 now, 6'2", and he's never given up on martial arts since the day he walked into my club. And he walked in there because his dad, Robin McCauley, was on Dale's team in Delta. So, he brought him in there, and he's been a forever student, but he's also, spent a lot of time with, tier 1 BJJ guys, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and boxing and kickboxing. And he's analytical. He's, like I say, he's got a degree in journalism, speaks a better part of 3 languages. And I tell you, he reconnected with me on LinkedIn last year, and he said that if I continue to train him, he would help me with my book. And it was like him having to do a thesis for a doctorate to go through the bumps and the bruises and the mind meld and 500 pages of documents that I've had from all the way back in the 70s and videotapes, and to be able to take what's in my head and fashion it in a way that is so organized it makes this book. I mean, I owe him a lot of credit for the way the book reads. I mean, it's 100% my material and what's in my head, but he really strung it together where it's there guys told me it could easily be a bestseller. So, we'll know later, but yeah, and he's a fighter, and he's been and he's learned everything that we talk about. He actually gets to experience firsthand.
That's awesome, man.
That is. That's amazing. We got to have you on again. Your story, people they need to see it. They need to see it. They need to experience and hear you talk and hear your experience, hear your just everything that you've gone through. You've gone through a hell of a lot more than I have, and I still learn a lot from you. And it's just having this conversation with you, I've pulled a lot out of it today as well, just personally myself. And
if it wasn't you, if it wasn't you, I wouldn't be talking about so much of this stuff. But we're brothers, in a lot of ways that many people don't know.
I agree. And well, you're the forefather, man. You can't, like I told Dale, man, he's the forefather. He came before me and guys like myself, even on a rooftop where I don't think anybody's coming. And I thought of guys like yourself. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I got a couple more hours of this. These guys were left to die for weeks on end. What am I bitching for? I got a lawn chair. I got enough bullets. I got a Snickers bar. I'm good to go. And that's how I thought. I mean, that's how I thought of it. Because
you just got to use your training, knowing your.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely would love to do this again, Jim. Next time in studio, since you're right here in the area when the studio opens again. AmericanExtensionFighting.com. The book is A Mind for the Fight, American Extension Fighting. And I should throw out there, at AmericanExtensionFighting.com, you could also buy several fixed blade weapons that Jim designed himself. These are like years in the making. I personally know because for years Jim was demonstrating on me with like the prototypes. And I should throw out there too, you got to see Jim just like with a weapon, the way he's able to maneuver things. It's some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. So you've got the Badger and the Talon for sale, right? And those are awesome, man. I've seen you use them in person.
I thank you for that. Hey, I want to tag on to something Chris was just saying about being in the moment. Forget about winning. And I've always said, people always ask me, like if I want to train somebody, what kind of person do I want to train? And I can't really tell you what kind of person. I said, but psychologically, I'd rather.
What happened? Are you still on speakerphone there with someone, Jim?
Well, they're on mute, but I'd rather. Okay. But I would rather train somebody that's afraid to lose than somebody that's all he wants to do is win.
And I agree. You fight and you have that, and people get that confused. Like, what do you mean? You're not positive? You don't think you're gonna? No, I ain't at all. I'm thinking I'm gonna. I'm fighting. I'm fighting in the moment. I'm fighting to power through, but I'm not expecting when the outcome's going to be. I'll try to dictate the fight a little bit, but I'm not. This is going to end now. I wish I could do that. I'm not that good. I'm not Chuck Norris. I'm not Bruce Lee. I'm not Jim West. I can't do that. But I'm going to fight my ass off. Yeah, and I'm not going to lose. I think one of the things I've always was during one firefight. I was worried that it's like, okay, these guys are not going to come over this wall and cut my head off. I'm not going to be on Al Jazeera with the camera in my face, watching my head get cut off. And I think that's line to what you were saying, is that that wasn't going to happen. And that was the thing, is I'm not going to lose. We're not going to lose this fight. We're not going to lose. We're going to keep fighting. Even if it's 5 days from now, this fight ends, we're not going to lose. And you're right. That's exactly how I think people, that's how exactly I feel people should be when they're fighting. But we're saying, I'm going to Muhammad Ali it and knock this guy out in the third round. Well, I wish I was that good. But then what if it doesn't happen? Well, guess where your morale goes? Guess where your motivation goes? So I'm with you, Jim. And again, that's why my mindset's the same, because we learn from guys like yourself. And the mindset
I know you got to wrap up, Jim. So I'm just going to throw out once again, AmericanExtensionFighting.com. And man, I know you got a call coming in, but I really appreciate you coming on, man.
All right, brother. It was a pleasure and an honor to have this time with both you guys. Chris, I appreciate you being here with us, man. Thank you much.
Brother, it's honor is mine, believe me. I am humbled to be talking to you. So thanks, man. God bless you, Jim. You go keep kicking ass, and I'll push your stuff out as much as you need to. Just let me know what I need to push out when you have stuff going on, so people know where to meet you at.
Oh, let's do it. We there's some things we can do. I'll contact you later.
Okay, you got it.
And we'll feel free to call me at any time.
You got it, brother. Take care of yourself.
Thanks,
Be
Jim.
safe, Jim.
All right, brother. Take care, Chris.
You too.
Bye, Ian.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ian.
Bye, man. For the listeners, I know we could have gone longer. I just know Jim had an important phone call that he had on speaker, because Jim also does construction stuff, as he mentioned. So I wanted him to be able to get to that, because at some point he's going to have to pick up that call. So we'll definitely do a part 2. And I think considering you guys have never met, maybe if you're back in New York City, all of us in studio would be awesome.
Well,
I think
we will. Oh yeah, we will. As soon as New York opens up, we will do that book signing. We'll do eventually. We'll get it done. But yeah, let's wait till all the silliness, but then also it is serious and silliness at the same time.
Sure.
I do believe that. Let's wait till all that ends, so it can be fun. Yeah. So if it's not till January, well, New York's fun no matter what it is. For me, New York's fun for 2 days. Always loved New York for 2 days, and then nope, I'm out. I can't be here anymore. But 2 days, the food, the people, and it is. If you haven't been and you live on Long Island, beautiful area out there. I said I've never been to that boardwalk. I may have and not even have realized it, but I believe the boardwalk. But Long Island's gorgeous. But even just Manhattan, if you haven't been to Manhattan, you got to go at least for a day or two. Just to walk around. You don't have to even do anything. Walk around, go to a bodega, buy a pack of gum just to say you were in a bodega, and you can say, "Yeah, I know what a bodega is," and then grab a piece of pizza and walk around. It's awesome. So yeah, I always like to come in at least for a couple of days when I'm in. Yeah, we'll do it then, brother. Definitely.
Yeah, we'll do it at some point. I knew that was going to be a great interview, and you and I always seem to say when we get off the air that our favorite interviews are the guys who aren't afraid of being vulnerable and opening up. And Jim is completely that guy. I think it's so funny because as opposed to the Jim who hid himself in his basement, as he said, Jim is the most open book. He's not ashamed to tell you anything about his life, and he's very proud of his life, as he should be.
Right. Yeah, definitely should be. People learn about it, learn from him, learn from the mistakes that he made and his successes, which he learned from mistakes, like all of us do. The ones that can do that, like himself, those to me are the badasses. Those are the guys I don't give a fuck if he's 60. I ain't messing with that dude because 66? He knows how to be humble. 66. So he's humble, but he's confident. That's the two things you need: humble and confident. From the great philosopher Patrick Swayze, who said, "Be nice until it's time to not be nice." That's what that means. Be humble, but be confident. You don't go looking for fights. But if one approaches you and that fight happens and you can't get out of it, you can't talk your way out of it, you can't remove yourself from it. Well, all right, switch is on, motherfucker. You didn't want this, but guess what? And that's exactly what the switch is on saying motherfucker means too. It's like, hey,
exactly.
Leave me alone. I'll be nice as hell to you. What do you need? Okay. Do you really want to go there? switches on, I'm ending this quickly because I don't want to fight. Fight hurts. I don't want to die. But if somebody's going to, it's going to be you.
Yeah, the Jim from the 80s and 90s was a guy who was getting into bar fights constantly. And as I said, I don't know that guy. But I did get a glimpse of the switch coming on at SHOT Show, actually, at the Ranger Up party. Some guy bumped in the Jim, and Jim was about to get into it with this guy. And the funny thing was, Ron Bellin, rest in peace, former Navy SEAL, he was there as well. And I remember Jim recalling the story. Ron Bellin was huge, and he was telling the story, and he's like, Ron Bellin is next to me, who's the size of this fucking closet, and he's in front of like this big closet we were at with a huge, like, you know, big screen TV. And luckily I don't think it went any further. But yeah, Jim is not a guy you want to mess with, and at the same time couldn't be a friendlier guy. And I don't know the guy who is this angry guy looking to start fights. That's just not the man that I know.
And that, I don't blame him for that either. Coming back and going through what he went through, it makes you angry. It makes you antisocial. I've been where I've been antisocial and angry the whole time. And the best thing you can do at that point, so you don't get in those situations, is you remove yourself from it, which is most likely, I'm not going to speak for him, but for my case, when I used to remove myself from it, when I've come home, and I would just stay in my house because I didn't want to go out. I didn't like anybody. Then I have to put on this pretty face, this smiley face that everything's okay. That's what sucks about being the public figure thing, is that I have to go out and pretend like everything's fine. When inside I was like, God, I hate everything. I hate everything. I just want to punch everything. And he literally actually did that, where I became a recluse, even though I know, like I always said, I'm the most antisocial social person out there. It's the truth, because when I was home,
I think,
no.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, I think he did a little of both, because I think as he got into after his son was killed, I think that's when, I don't think he was fighting people. I think he was just in his basement or wherever, not doing a whole lot of anything. And that's actually the guy that Jack Murphy met, and he'll tell you that, just as he said, Jack kind of let him out of his shell, just connecting with guys in the community. And I've seen it myself, that guys in the community can't relate to me the way they could relate to other guys in the community. It's fair to say. I haven't seen what you guys have seen. So sometimes they need other guys, even if it's from a different generation, to say, hey, let's go do something. Let's go for lunch. Let's go for dinner. Let's talk about experiences we had. And I think it gets people out of their shells a little bit.
And you're right. Jack did great things. Jack being a Ranger from 3rd Vet, he understands that. And any of you out there that have been in OEF, Operation Enduring Freedom, or Operation Iraqi Freedom, if you can't learn from a Vietnam vet, if you can't sit down and listen to them, you've got issues. Because those guys, we went through some, they went through a hell of a lot more than we did. And politics, really, I mean, we have politics now. That was awful. So, man, I would recommend any guy coming back from the theater now, or in the last 10 years, or since 2001, sit down with a Vietnam vet, and it really puts things in perspective. For those y'all know, I wrote about in the book, what's the word I'm looking for? When I do it myself, I volunteered. I've actually voluntarily. Yeah, what I actually not volunteered, but I voluntarily put myself in the VA health ward for 2 days when I was going through issues like that time when I was extremely antisocial, estranged from my wife. And you sit down, and there's still Vietnam guys that are in there, or that come and meet, or that come in and stay in there for 3 or 4 days. And again, you talk to those guys, you're like, God, I really don't have it that bad. These guys went through hell, and they're still dealing with it how many years after? And it does. It puts things in perspective. And then it helps them because they have somebody to talk to, just to get it out, because it's been building up for years, and they've been internalizing it, which is why Jack was probably important with Jim. Again, I don't want to speak for both of them, but from experience, I'm sure that's what helped Jim be okay and come out of that darkness, is that all that internal stuff, to include his son passing away, being able just to sit down and talk about it. So that's why I always preach to guys, go find somebody to talk to. Don't be so proud that I can handle this. I'm a big alpha male. I can tough it out. No, you can't. No.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's that service member to service member
Yeah.
connection. I know people will
Yeah.
say go seek a professional, but I've seen just from talking to guys that I've known in the community, sometimes it's actually not the best for them because their attitude, understandably so, is this person has no idea what the hell I'm going through. They're usually talking to someone who's depressed for other reasons, but they don't know someone who's had to
Yeah.
kill someone in combat. And if you haven't had to kill someone in combat, then how do you relate to someone who has?
That's a good point, and that's why you do have to pick your people wisely. Pick somebody within your circle. If you don't have a circle, fine. I'm sure you have a fellow veteran you served with that you can contact and do that. And that's honestly that's probably the best way to start. And if that doesn't help, well, then you can move on to a healthcare professional, somebody who's trained in this, if that's what you feel like you need to do. But yeah, and you're right. 90% of the guys talk to their buddies and just talk to a buddy or talk to another veteran. Go down the VFW. There's plenty of guys there. How many guys I've talked to at a VFW when I've done and just come into a VFW to have a drink? Been perfect right there. And it's you feel safe because you're in a confines of veterans and you're in a building. There's no outsiders. That's always enough too. Is find your local VFW, go in there and have a conversation. And there's plenty of guys in there that want to talk to you and listen. And you walk into a VFW. Honestly, when I do, it's like I'm with all my old buddies, and it may be a VFW in Texas that I don't know anybody in there. But it's like, no, I feel good. I'm comfortable. I can say what I want. I can talk out loud. I can be obnoxious if I want because there's a bunch of other obnoxious veterans in here, and you feel good, and you do. So I agree with you. I totally second that point too, and I'm glad you made that clarification because you're right. You're spot on.
Yeah. Well, but before we say anything wrapping up, I did want to mention, because we haven't said it yet on the show, we have shirts available finally. I'm getting mine in the mail. They look awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I have shirts from them and I know that it's great quality. So tonto-apparel.myshopify.com. And in the link on here of the podcast, I'll embed it so that you guys could buy a shirt from us. They're designed by Aaron Lauder, who does a great job. Very simple design, which is what I wanted. Of the logo, American flag on the sleeve, straight to the point. And I think you guys will dig it. So tonto-apparel.myshopify.com, or just look on the episode here and I'll throw in the link. Before I end with Battleline Tactical, who's been proudly sponsoring us every show. I guess the other thing I should throw out there, I didn't say it yet, is we are going to do 2 shows a week for the indefinite future. I can tell you New York is not getting back to normal for a while. And when we do, my stuff of training people at the gym, that's not going to happen right away. I'm just being realistic here. They're going to start to open up restaurants and things like that. But the close quarter contact stuff, it's going to be a while later. And even that's going to be weird to sort out. I talked to the guy who manages the gym I was working at, and they're probably going to limit the amount of people who are allowed in the gym, which is just so weird to me, and probably limit the amount of time you spend there, which is also weird to me because, regardless of that saying of like, oh, I'm here to train, I'm not here to socialize, I've realized I am there to train, but I'm also there to socialize because there's a ton of guys that I loved seeing there. I have no problem saying this. There was a guy who was at my gym that I worked at. Super nice guy, could bench press like a house, and he was a special needs guy, and he would run up and hug people that he saw there and was like the nicest guy in the world. And I miss bro hugging with that guy. I miss seeing him there and enjoying his day. He would spend like 6 hours at the gym, and I think maybe 45 minutes of that was training, and the rest was walking around saying hi to people. And I do miss that, I gotta say. So it's going to be a weird adjustment. And until then, I'm loving doing this podcast. There's so many guest suggestions, as you know. And when we're doing the show once a week, we can't get to them all. So now that we're doing the show twice a week in May, we'll be able to get to a lot more people that we want to get on.
No, you're right, bro. We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll try to do it through May, maybe even June. Honestly, bro, I'm getting back after it speaking in August. So I've got all the ones that I had in May have been rescheduled, and actually I'll have a new one coming up too. But I'll be back at it, getting out doing some speaking events. starting August, September. And again, it just depends on the state where, but so we'll do it. We'll do it the 2 week. Whether Chris will be on the show, Tom will be on the show every time after July.
I like how you did third person there.
Yeah, after the. Well, at least I didn't say the Tonto, so I'm not that pretentious. Only a little. But after, but we'll be doing a couple a week, and hopefully, hopefully people are listening out there and getting something out of it. And for those of y'all that are new listeners, as you can tell, we try just to learn and hear stories and pick brains of people and get their stories of how to overcome. And we'll touch on the news a little bit, but you can listen to somebody else if you want to hear about the misrepresentation of the media. So don't listen to us about that.
We're trying to do something different. And of the people, I mean, there's so many people we're trying to have on. I know from like your end, Ben Morgan and Benny Glossop and Hank Strange, and then there's a few guys in the rock community who want to come on, like Dave Silvera originally from Korn, and Jimmy Allen from Puddle of Mud. And then there's like the bigger guys who would like to get on, like David Goggins, or a guy like Ted Nugent I would love to have on here. So, we'll start reaching out to all of those people. And, Debbie Rashan, who did the voiceover, she's going to redo that voiceover for the 2 a week. And I said to Debbie, we'd love to have you on, talk about your movie career, and radio career. So there's a lot of great people we have in mind. And then probably a few solo shows of just us shooting the shit. And I know you guys like that, answering your emails sent to battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. And man, I'm really enjoying doing these. I'm enjoying the response that we're getting. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I enjoy doing this one too.
We're getting to be known internationally. I did a podcast for this week for James. Why am I forgetting his name? I have it right here. James, I'm sorry, brothers. Gosh dang it. James Reese, who does podcasts for MMA. He does MMA podcasts. Like, I want to try to change it up. Be my first. I was like, well, yeah. How do you know who I am? He goes, well, 13 hours, Tano. We watch it over here too. And he's going like, oh, okay. But that is what's cool, and also that they knew about the podcast, Battleline Podcast. To me, that's still humbling. The stateside is outstanding, but you tell me we have people in New Zealand, Australia, and so forth. Getting outside the borders and having people listen to us outside of the U.S. to me, that's even more humbling. And doing the interview with him, it's just amazing. I still can't believe that people are paying attention even after this long, or want to talk to me, or want to talk about the podcast. So we're getting people listening outside the U.S., which also means a lot to me as well. I know it does to you too, Ian. So as far as that goes,
really does.
I'm just happy. Thank you. And nah, bro, that's it. That's really. I got one more thing on the Battleline Podcast T-shirts. Some people have been asking. The T-shirts, when you go on the Tonto Apparel, what are they? Hey, guys, they're that next level contour fitting stuff, all that good, thin quality. So we're not putting out cheap stuff. And the Battleline Podcast shirts, if you can't do all that Tonto /apparel .myshopify.com, you can always just Google ChrisTontoParano.net, and the website will pop up, and then you just hit Tonto Apparel, and you'll see those shirts. And they're fantastic quality shirts. So and right now I know I haven't promoted it a ton.
Tonto Toolbox?
The toolbox is out there. You're going to see that on the website. Everything that I have right now is discounted 15% off. The only reason I didn't put a big, hey, everything's 15% off, I felt kind of shitty. It's like, oh my gosh, because everybody else is doing it. Like, like, God dang, money's tight right now. I don't want to be that guy come lately. Like, I love everything's on disc, but it is discounted just for that reason. But I'm not trying to get you. Believe me, spend your money on your family, on food, on bills, on necessities. Everything on here is a luxury. Would we love? Of course, me and Ian want you to be wearing the Battleline Podcast shirts, and they look awesome. They're fantastic. But again, put your money where it needs to go first, and then if you have something extra, we're because of times are tight. Yeah, of course we're gonna make discounts on these things.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And the realistic thing also is just that there's a lot of people who actually their business is thriving, just like there's some people whose business is horrible. They're losing their jobs. Totally understand it personally. But there's other companies that are thriving because of the fact that everybody's on their computer all day, unfortunately, and not getting out as much. So there's certain people who do have money to spend. So yeah, for the guys out there who don't have the money to spend, I certainly don't expect you to buy anything. And that's actually why I'm glad that we don't do the thing where we're charging for a podcast. I want this to be completely free for everybody to enjoy, to get something out of. And you were definitely not obligated to buy anything. It's, not what we do. So, for the people who are bitching that we have like libraries and stuff, we do this completely free for you guys. So, you don't have to buy anything. It's just if you do. And I should actually say on that note, if you are someone who's on the range, if you are looking to buy ammo, look no further than Fort Scott Munitions. Solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as directly online through FortScottMunitions.com, FortScottMunitions.com. Use our exclusive promo code BATTLELINE, one word, for 15% off your order, whether you're getting tins, you're getting ammo. Check out the website. You're going to see a ton of stuff that you're going to say, I have to have that. So you are. It's only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast with that promo code. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. And just as much as hopefully a lot of you guys are enjoying this, I'm enjoying doing these because there's not a whole lot to do. So just getting to connect with Chris, getting to connect with guys like Jim, and doing these long form interviews, I think is awesome. And also, as you were saying, the people listening overseas, highlights in the past would go out with you on Fox News or, something like that. But I think the huge difference between that and this is you don't really get to know through those interviews who is Chris Peranto, who is Jim West. And I think if you listen to this, hour and a half to 2 hours of us talking, you really get a feel for who this person is and what drives them and what motivates them every day.
And you're getting real information. You're not getting a sound bite. You're not getting a 4-minute, hey, a structured interview where they're trying to push you. And I've been there, guys, where they're trying to push you a direction to say something to go down that rabbit hole, which you can use at another sound bite or misrepresent you. This is where you're getting your news. This is where you're getting your information. This is the Everyday Man podcast. Radio interviews, stuff like where long format, where you're getting the everyman information that people need to hear, and where people, I really do believe, what I need to hear too, what I need to listen to, because this is where you can get a feeling of what's going on in the world, not from those damn sound bites and not from those structured interviews. And they are structured, guys. Believe me, every time I was on Fox or CNN, the producer is, here's our outline of what we're going to ask you. Well, I don't want to game it. Don't give me that shit. But that's how the majority of them are. I would tell them no. I'd say, nope, I don't want to know. That way you're going to get an answer, a real answer from me when you ask me that question. And I'd always say, but just be careful what you ask me, because I'm going to give you an answer. It may not be something you want on TV. And the 700 Club was another one. They didn't like some of the answers I would give them. Like, don't ask me that. I'm a Christian, but you're still asking me. You ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. But this is the Everyday Man news source, our podcast, other podcasts out there like this, because you're getting to know people, but you're also getting real answers. We're not a structured answer that I had a chance to think about all night. How am I going to word this so it's politically correct? Yeah. No, you're going to get that, which is awesome, which I think is what people need to hear.
Yeah, and we focus on things that are really in people's wheelhouse. And I could say this as a guy who's worked in mainstream media. The guys that you see on TV aren't often the experts. They're really just the people who want to, you could say media whores, the people who want to be on TV the most and are available the most. I'm not going to say his name, but like there's a guy who would appear on Fox News as an expert on law enforcement, and I know for a fact the guy was a police officer for 3 months. All right, so is that an expert on law enforcement? Not in my mind. So it's just take all that stuff with a grain of salt. Like, if you want to hear from a true martial arts expert, you're not going to get anyone better than Jim West. I could fully say that.
And just a tough son of a bitch, you're not going to get anybody more tough or tougher than Jim West as well. And that is mental toughness as well as physical toughness. So yeah, it's why you want to listen to that subject matter expert there. You want to listen to Jim. And that's why I like him on the show, because again, just from this interview, I listen and I learn from mental toughness from him, because he has, out of all the stuff that I've been blessed to go through, which have been very lucky, the man has still endured a hell of a lot more pain and adversity than I have. And just listening to him makes me like, man, I can still, my life is great. Oh my gosh. And and you know what, when I go out the door today and I go down drive, because we can still go to the grocery store here. I don't know if you can in New York. You can, right? But when I go and somebody cuts me off, I'm not going to be cussing them out because, oh man, this dude cut me off and didn't signal. Yeah, no, my life's great, and I know how to deal with adversity, and I'm learning how to deal with adversity even more so because of talking to guys like Jim West. So, yeah, brother, this is tremendous, and it helps me, because it does help me at the end of the day. Even though in my head, for all truthfulness, I'll be completely honest, there's sometimes where it's time for the podcast, and I look at my wife Tanya and like, fuck, I don't want to do this. I just want to go take a nap. But at the end of it, it makes me feel better too. So all you out there that are listening that are helping us go and keep going, you guys are helping me. You're helping me with a therapy. This is therapy for me. So if you're going to listen for any other reason, know you're helping my mindset out by just listening to us and let me ramble. And I appreciate
Tanya
that.
Tanya said the same thing to me. I was on the phone with Tanya, I think like a week or two ago, and she said that, regardless, you always come out of the podcast like smiling about something. So she was like, he enjoys doing it. I'm like, all right, that's good to hear.
It's just at the beginning, like, fuck. It's like,
I'm the same way with going to the gym. Every time you start a workout, you're like, I don't want to do this. 20 minutes in, you're like, all right, this is why I love doing this.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're spot on, brother. So, all you people out there, thank you. I really appreciate it. You guys have allowed us, by the listeners, we're able to have sponsors like Fort Scott, sponsors like Ned, sponsors like Patch Ops that help us to keep this going as well. So, brother, you guys are the glue. You're the that keeps us together. You're also the gasoline that keeps it moving. So I can't say thank you enough, and to everybody out there that's listening every day.
That's all for this week's Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk, so make sure you're subscribed, and keep up with the show 24/7 on Facebook and Instagram at Battleline Podcast. Also on Twitter